So court-appointed special advocates provides best interest advocacy for youth in foster care. We recruit volunteers from our community. We provide training, ongoing support, so that youth in foster care have at least one consistent adult in their life as they're transitioning through care. To be there and to support them. Currently, we're serving 210 youth in foster care. We have over 149 volunteers. At any given day, there are over 500 youth in the Prince George's County foster care system. Court-appointed special advocates, we are a friend of the court. We are independent, and we provide independent reports to the court based on our findings while we spend time with youth. And now more than ever, it's so critical that we keep eyes on kids. Because of the pandemic, it has been very difficult for cases to be reported. However, we know that during pandemics, abuse and neglect cases are difficult to report. However, we do expect a rise in reports once we're out of this. And so CASA has continued our advocacy. We are so thankful that all of our volunteers have continued on with their cases. We've adjusted our practices to virtually advocate for our youth. We have virtual visits. Case supervisors are meeting with CASA volunteers twice a week to ensure that there's ongoing and consistent support for youth and their families even. We've been able to provide PPEs to our volunteers as well as to our CASA youth. We've provided additional resources to families who have now become kinship care because youth who were out of placement were able to be welcomed into their homes. However, because it was unexpected because we had transition youth, we were able to provide supplies to the family and give them ongoing support through donations. So as a former CASA volunteer also, I know firsthand why it's so critical that we are able to recruit and really train volunteers to provide this critical service. We don't require that our volunteers have a background in social work, but we do ask that they have the compassion, the willingness, and the ability to commit. And in doing so and taking on this work, we're working with youth who have experienced trauma, youth who are sometimes who have been exposed to human trafficking, domestic violence. And as general citizens, they don't necessarily always know how to respond or how to provide a support to our CASA youth. And that's why it's critical that we have training. And so one of our gift options is actually the training of a volunteer, to provide training to volunteers. You can see this here. So a gift of $100 will actually provide training services for a court-appointed special advocate. And as I mentioned before, as youth are transitioning in care, many times they're out of placement, either voluntarily or involuntarily having to move unexpectedly, and they need an emergency kit, hygiene kit, those things. And so your gift of $20 will provide an emergency hygiene kit. And we keep those items in our closet at CASA, and CASA volunteers come into the office and make arrangements to pick up those items so that they can share them with youth. Additionally, the youth that we serve, the largest population of youth within the foster care are between ages 14 to 21. Those youth still have ongoing needs, especially for employment. We do have a workforce development training coordinator who partners with organizations to help our youth prepare with soft skills as well as technical skills. So as they're transitioning out, they're more marketable and they're able to secure successful employment. So a gift of $35 will provide transportation services will help us to provide transportation support to a youth getting to and from job interviews, and sometimes even getting to their actual place of employment. So court-appointed special advocates, we receive a lot of our most of our funding is through state and local government grants. We do not have an ongoing stream of contractual income. So we rely heavily on grants as well as individual philanthropy and foundation support. And we are so diligent in how we appropriate those donations that 85% of our donations go into the programmatic support so that we can ensure that we are recruiting volunteers, we're training volunteers, and we're providing best interest advocacy for the youth that we serve in the community. So Jim, that pretty much concludes my
Excellent.
presentation.
That's so
And
cool. I mean, I knew
sorry.
about CASA, but I didn't know all the ins and outs of it. So that
Yes,
again, this is why this presentation setup here is so great for all these groups.
yes.
Um, and this just reminds me of like it kind of makes me angry because it's like this should not be a charitable organization. You guys should be
Mhm.
totally funded. And so many of the groups, they should be totally funded
Yeah.
for the work that you do that's so important, has an impact on children's lives. And it's so frustrating to hear that, you don't even have a source of income. It's all grants and charity.
Yes, yes. And one of the things too that I've noticed during this, especially during the pandemic, this is giving season. Tuesday was kicked off Giving Tuesday, but also the CFC campaigns are underway. The Maryland Charitable Contribution campaigns are also underway. And when you look at the number of nonprofit organizations that are providing wraparound services, um, think about if those nonprofits weren't here during this pandemic. What would happen? What would happen if there weren't committed volunteers to continue those services? Services that have now even vamped up in the need. So, and they've continued their commitment. So it's just so critical. I know I'm here for CASA Prince George's County, but I think all of us are just doing such yeoman's work in terms of the services that we provide. And the community really I'm afraid to think where we would be
Right.
if we didn't have organizations and people who care enough to commit their time and service without a payment, just because of the generosity of their heart and compassion to give to others and make a difference. So I'm thankful to be a part of this. I'm more thankful that I have the will and the desire to help others. So I just thank you and appreciate you for having me participate in this.